We're going live na.
The broadcast is live. There you go.
That's as live as
That's
we
how we know.
go.
Okay. Oh, Diana, you were supposed to start.
Yeah, welcome to Young Money Podcast, everyone. It's our first episode and I'm really excited dahil matagal na talaga gusto ko makakaroon ng podcast. And I'm very thankful kay Vince for inviting me for this. I've been wanting talaga but sa sobrang busy ko, hindi ko nagawa. Alam mo yon sa sobrang ang dami kong pinoproduce ngayon. Kaya sabi ko, this is a blessing, especially not just for me, but for also the aspiring business people and young people who would like to start making money at a very young age. I'm sure you guys are going to get inspired with the talks that we're going to have here. How are you, Vince?
Hi, Diana. So, yes, thank you for joining us, our very first episode of Young Money, the Young Money podcast. I'm Vince Golanco from wheninmanila.com, and with me is the beautiful Diana Meneses. She of course is also an entrepreneur, other than of course her TV hosting, all those things. She always has something going on behind the scenes that you guys
Yes,
might
something
not know
great.
of. Which is why she's the perfect person to be here to talk to you guys about young money. And that's what the
Young
show is.
money. Let's do
We're
this,
going to be
Vince.
it reminds me of that Jerry Maguire. For the millennials, they might not know the movie,
Oh,
but
this that's so great that you said that. I have one of my managers always says, "Show me the money, show me the
I
money. I'm
I
going to be
sent
your show me the."
I sent you the GIF or GIF, however you pronounce it. I sent you
Yeah,
a picture of
I
Tom
know,
Cruise
I
going,
know,
"Show
but
me the money."
now that you
But
mentioned the yeah, I know that comes from that film, that movie, but now that you mention it, it just everything is so synchronized. Like it's just happening to me right now. Like this is one of the best years of my life, despite this
oh,
pandemic.
I'm so
One,
happy for you.
one of the best years of my life. Like I had a very tough, difficult year last year, and I'm sure naman a lot of people can relate to that. Siyempre galing naman ako sa business na showbiz, and then kung hindi pa kayo familiar dito sa Philippines, if you're watching all over the world from the Facebook or from wherever you're listening to us from or watching us, I'm sure lahat tayo nahirapan. We all had a hard time last year. But then, especially if you're doing entertainment, if you haven't shifted to online yet, it's going to be very challenging to actually keep up. So I had a very, very difficult transition last year. Probably I didn't work for about 9 months, I would say. Like I had no income whatsoever. My businesses were down, everything. So I was like, kailangan ko bumangon. Alam mo yon. And then I did it. So I'm really, really happy and I'm here again. And now we have this podcast where we're going to interview amazing people, amazing, inspiring people. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, Vince. Thank you.
Well, before I talk more about the show, just based off what you said, if I'm not mistaken, the CEO or a big head of Nokia back in the day. Again, for the
Mm.
millennials who are not familiar, Nokia was the number one phone brand in the world back in the early 2000s, even 90s. They were number
Yeah.
one. There was before
Yeah.
Apple, before Samsung, all that Nokia. But then now they're not really that relevant. And what the CEO or one of the heads said this thing where we didn't do anything wrong, but we lost, and it was because they didn't adapt. They didn't
I
change. So they just kept going because they were number one. They just kept going. So in today's world, you kind of do need to adapt.
Yes.
Everything's changing. Entertainment, business, everything is always changing. If you're not adapting,
Our
you're gonna fall
currency is
behind.
changing.
Currency's
We're
changing it all
going
the time.
digital, for God's sake.
Exactly.
We need to
So
adjust. Vince,
yes.
I have this difficult time explaining to people who are one generation above us, like our parents' generation and stuff like that. Like I was having a conversation because I host an NFT related or crypto related show.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know that. Okay.
yeah, I've been doing that for since maybe 2 months now. And
Okay.
ang dami ko natutunan. I've been learning a lot, no? And when I was so inspired to tell my parents about it, and they just shut me down. And I was like so mad.
It's 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 a bit intense. You can't. I th- I think if they're not familiar with crypto, NFT might be too much of a jump. I think slowly into stocks and then
Yeah,
crypto and then NFT.
you're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna be
But
scammed. It's not allowed in China. And I'm like,
yes,
okay, enough.
that's the perfect intro to talk about the show. So that's where the show came from. Is that from the concept of there's so many ways to earn. Of course, success is not defined just by money, but of
Right.
course, we'd like for people to at least be comfortable and not have to worry about the bills. You
Yeah.
know, you can eventually, you can be happy in other ways, but at least you're comfortable. You don't have to worry about bills. I mean, no electricity or whatnot. So for this show, we'd like to tackle that part to where we're talking about the many new ways you can earn and be successful financially. Because oh my
Mm-hmm.
god, blogging, vlogging, crypto, NFTs, gaming, streaming, online selling, etc. There's
Yeah.
so many ways to earn, and a lot of times it's with minimal investments. And like with digital, if anything, your only investment is maybe minimal equipment. You don't even need a full setup. You don't need like studio level setup. Sometimes
Yeah.
your cell phone is enough.
Yeah. That's
So
true.
so it just inspired me to like even me, even I've been in digital for so long, but if I'm not reading and I'm not adapting, I feel like I'm always left behind. There's so many
Same.
new things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Another
with
thing I
that,
like to point out, Vince, is that nowadays people are complaining a lot about life and how it's changed, but it's actually a blessing. Tingnan nyo naman. Before, you don't have a free platform where you can actually showcase what your value is. It wasn't available to everybody. It wasn't something that everybody has access to. Now, not people only have access to, people are addicted to what those platforms are. So that's where people should be focusing on the blessing of those platforms instead of like, oh my God, nawala yung mga physical stores. Oh my God, nawala yung TV. Okay lang, ano ka ba? That's fine. It's giving you more opportunities to grow, and then to basta tumayo ka sa sarili mong paa, hindi naman yung, alam mo yon, like, you don't depend on the big guns to hire you to do something in order for you to show and get expertise. No, no. You have to, like, get yourself in there, learn from failure. You know what I mean? Like, just like what I do. I'm like always failing and then learning again and then learning and then winning. And then, it just really goes together. So I think we're having a blessing in this, guys. Diba?
I'd like to hope. Yeah, it's a bit
I'd like
hard
to
to
hope.
see at the moment, but yeah, hopefully we can help people rise up again.
I
Absolutely.
hope so. Yeah.
But
So I'm
we're talking
excited.
about
We have our first guest today, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Who's
We're
very
talking
inspiring,
about the. I'm sorry.
very inspiring guest because I'm actually I will meet him today, in person talaga, digitally, but I know about him, of course.
In
Who
person
doesn't
digitally. I like
know?
that. But yes, so a lot of people may already know our first guest, and I thought of him as a perfect first guest because again, as I mentioned, there's so many ways digitally, or just so many ways, period,
Yeah.
to earn nowadays and to develop your brand and to build sort of an empire, which is what he did. Um, for most digital people, he needs no introduction. But just in case you're not familiar, for me, I knew him from our blogging days back in the day,
Oh
early
wow.
2000s when we just started blogging. That's where I met him at the blogging events. But then as time went on, um, every new thing he would always be on top of it. Uh, from blogging went to vlogging and then creating physical stores. He also has a corporate life, so he's a mix of both. But today he's really just sort of the go-to guy for digital digital stuff. His
Yeah.
blog started out with tech, and then he had a very popular vlog in sneakers. But he does so many other things as well. But anyway, I'm very very excited to welcome good friend of mine and to introduce you, Diana, Carlo Ople as our first guest.
Hello, hi
Hi,
everyone. Hi Vince,
Carlo,
Carlo.
nice to meet you. Hi Vince, happy to be on
sorry
your
I had
first
to.
episode.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you
for
so
being
much for joining us. Sorry I had to soft reveal our age. Na we were blogging back in the day.
No problem. Happy to be here.
But Carlo, I pretty much had a very soft intro of you, where you were a vlogger. A lot of people nowadays, I think you extra blew up with your sneaker vlogging.
Gadget. Yeah.
But how do you introduce yourself nowadays to people? I'm just
Well,
curious, like without,
that's
I mean,
kind
without
of
bragging, but what do you say you do?
well, when people ask, I just say that I'm a digital entrepreneur. That's like the best way, I guess, to describe it. Because I wear a lot of hats. Apart from the corporate life, all of my digital like activities are housed under a holding company, and then I have like sub companies under those. From the e-commerce bit to the content bit to the talent management bit, to the NFT bit. So we're actually launching a NFT project soon. So it's pretty
Nice.
interesting. So yeah, so I'm interested in your NFT show. So we
Sige,
should
sige.
talk. But yeah, so yun, I just say that I'm a digital entrepreneur, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I would introduce myself. But yeah, like what I mentioned earlier, I'm literally all over the place. If there's one thing lang tying everything together, I just try to make money doing stuff that I like. That's pretty much that what
I
matters most
didn't.
to me.
So I did not know you had the talent management and etc., which is great. Let's
I
get
didn't
to
know that
those in
too.
a bit. Can we start talking from the beginning? How did
Yeah,
things start
sure.
out for you, Carlo? Were you, I mean, as a kid, I mean, you probably, there was no blogging when we were kids, so I don't think you dreamt of I'm gonna be a digital person. So where do you think this all started from you for you?
Well, I can really trace it back to my gaming days kasi the genesis of digital marketing and the digital industry is really gaming. So I was a huge fan. I was a avid fan of Ragnarok Online, which was like one of the biggest games in the early 2000s. And that led me to putting up my own internet cafe. That actually gave me the initial how do you say this, exposure to digital marketing, because I would PR our guild. So that's like the group of people that you manage. So we would do it on a forum because social media wasn't big back then. And then that things just led to one thing to another. I got hired by a gaming company, Level Up, which published Ragnarok and all the biggest games. And that's where I learned all of the foundational digital skills that I have today. So from data analytics to digital marketing to placing ads on digital to managing communities, even influencer marketing. Because now, diba, you talk to the celebrities or digital people who have like massive following. But back then, we would talk to guild leaders who would have multiple or hundreds of followers in the game space. I would try to pirate guild leaders from other games to join our games. So it's very similar, very similar. So whining and dining them, giving them VIP perks. And then in 2006 yata or 2007, I can't remember when, Ragnarok pioneered free to play. So basically, that was the first major digital e-commerce play in the Philippines. Kasi, you don't have to pay for the game, but you can buy multiple items. So that was my exposure to e-commerce. Being able to sell, having promos, having 11.11.99. This is early as 2008-ish. So,
Wow, they had
so it
that
was,
back then. I didn't know that.
yeah, so it's very,
Wow.
very early.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then from there, I went into Friendster because I fell in love with digital. I worked there for a little less than a year. Then I fell in love with content, so I joined TV5. I headed their new media division. When I was in TV5, that's when I put up my content businesses. So I put up unbox.ph. I think we were around that same time, with when in Manila. So I
Yep,
put
yep.
up unbox.ph. Today we have around 5 sites, ranging from geek to hype stuff and all of the other things that I find interesting. And then what else? I put up a digital agency. We ran it for 4 to 5 years. Then we sold it. So that was like my first legit exit. So that was nice. And then yeah, and still now I'm still in corporate, but I try my best to balance all of my entrepreneurial endeavors together with my corporate life. Kasi some people keep on saying, diba, that you have to choose one over the other. That you
I have
can
a
only
question about that.
right? Diba? That you can only be an entrepreneur or you can only be a
Sabi.
corporate
Oo
guy.
daw.
But with digital, kasi you can do both. Eh. I mean, before, if you need a business, you have to be at the shop to sell, right? But now you put up an e-commerce shop and then it sells by itself, right? So or you put up teams and stuff like that. So I just feel digital allowed us to be slashers, like what you mentioned earlier, or side hustlers or whatever you want to call it. But revenue is addition. So if you can add more revenue streams, then why not? So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Sige, Carlo, I have a question for you. Like, as someone who succeeded as an entrepreneur and while holding a we high level position at at a company, like, how do you find balance? Like, how did you get into like, sige, alam ko na I watch you, so I know more or less how it goes, but I would like to share with the people here, like, if they have a job and then they want to be creators as well and they don't know what to do, like, how do they do that? Can you share with us your balance?
Yeah, well, there are three important points that I'd like to share. So number one is before you get into anything like on side hustles or becoming like a creator while having a corporate job, you need to check if the company will allow it. You can't just do it without,
That's
you know,
that's
you,
I didn't
as
know
for me,
that.
I take a look at our disclosure agreement. So ako, I disclose everything as much as I can to the company and get the permission of whoever was directly managing me throughout my career.
Mhm.
But it's allowed. So it's part of our well, I'm fortunate that it's allowed in where I work or in the companies that I've worked at. The second important thing is that you shouldn't allow your side hustle to be to put you in a bad position na parang you're not delivering anymore in your
Mm,
main.
true, true, true.
So if you can manage to, well, you shouldn't manage. You should still be very good at what you do in your day job, and then eventually, expand and work on your side hustles. And then the third point is that if there's one thing I learned in corporate, so I've been in corporate for over 15 years now, or 16 na ba, 17. It's if you want to,
Nakakaalam na tayo ng mga age. Ako din,
Oo
15
nga
years
eh.
ako in the Philippines.
Correct, correct. If you want to do a lot of things, you need to build teams. The biggest mistake kasi of a lot of entrepreneurs is tinitipid nila yung employees nila. Or nagtitipid sila sa simula kasi hindi pa ganun kalaki yung budget nila, di ba? But the
Mhm.
problem with spending not so much on your employees is it takes too much more of your time and your effort. So ako, my viewpoint is I will hire very professional, very good leads, pay them what they're worth, so that I don't have to spend that much time in running that particular business. Parang I'll do it first, I'll learn it, and then I'll hire somebody good to run with it. So yun yung style ko. That's why I do many things. I'm able to do a lot of things kasi everything that I do has a team. So
Nice.
it's not as if I'm the one doing everything, diba? So
Yeah,
yun,
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much, that's like the ano.
Makes
That's
so
how
much
I
sense.
balance.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people like nagtitipid sila eh, no? They want to do it all on their own and then syempre they burn out. Of course,
Yeah.
you can't just do it all. But very important din ang sinabi mo na parang you have to do it first so that when you hire a person, you really know what they, 'di ba? Parang you can't
Yeah.
demand from somebody something that you don't know or that
Exactly.
you
Kasi if, yung style ko nga is ano eh, do something, start something, try to prove the proof of concept and make money, and then start replacing yourself. Parang what are the functions that you
or
do
write that down.
in your business, and then slowly start replacing yourself with people who are better than you in those particular
Ah,
functions. So if you're good, if so marketing, who can replace you? In digital, who can replace you? Sales, operations. And then as the business grows, you can let go, and then you can start other things. Because I think that's my curse eh. Parang, I feel like, I got that from the book eh, yung Strengths Finder. I'm very good at starting things. But I begin to suck when it becomes boring. So
I
so I
think
try
we're all like that.
I tried to make a formula na the chances of succeeding for starting things and it moving along without me would be higher. So yun yung system ko. That's what I do.
Nice. Very, very
Carlo,
good.
I love the advanced advice for when hiring and building teams. I think that's so useful. But for
So
people who aren't quite at that level yet, who are just starting out, how because when you started out, you sort of, I guess, had an internet cafe, which is a bit intense for most people. How do you recommend people who want to be an entrepreneur but may not have as much resources or whatnot? How do you recommend they start out?
I when I started, I didn't have capital. I mean, I pitched it. So, I mean, I didn't have a single peso to my name because I didn't ask money from my parents or stuff like that. So, I literally, wala pang PowerPoint nun. I had like a giant illustration board on what the internet cafe would look like. And then I would just pitch to investors. I would tell them this is the vision, this is how much I'm asking for, and this is how much the potential ROI would be. So we were able to get investors. The internet cafe, was put up, but unfortunately, um, because I was so young at that time, I really mismanaged it. So we had the eventually the internet cafe had to be sold. Kasi nga I wasn't professionally trained to manage something like that. So you learn it from your mistakes, diba? So a lot of the mistakes that I learned from all of my earlier failures, I try to avoid now that I'm a little bit older. So yun. But yeah, again, to
I'm
advice to anybody starting, number one, if you need, if kumbaga there are two, three things that you have to your advantage when you're young and you're starting. You have time and you have energy. Diba? Kasi when you get old like me, you don't have as
yeah,
much
old.
energy.
We're not old. We're
Oh yeah,
old.
when you're a little bit more mature, diba? You're not as you're not you don't, your priorities change. I keep saying in my talks there's this value I believe in yung 7 to 1. Basically 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. you build your career, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. you build your dreams. So when
I
you're
love
young,
that. I believe that too.
yeah, diba? So when you're young, it's easy to do the 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. life because you don't have a family, you don't have kids, you don't have responsibilities. In short, when you're 21 and you're single, then burn the midnight oil and learn everything and hustle to death kasi you don't alam mo yun, you don't stand to lose anything. And again, that's for people who are hustlers. Because there are some people who define success differently and would want work-life balance more than anything else. But if you're like me, who wants to,
Workaholic.
who's very ambitious, pwede rin ganon.
We have a
Uh,
guest sa likod.
but it's so cute. You see the cat. It's so cute. So
uh,
yun. When you get older kasi the 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. becomes what? 10 to 10:30 or maybe 11 to 11:15. Lalo when you have, when you, it
yeah, you're
changes.
sleeping na by 11 eh.
Or when you get married, diba, your priorities change. Diba, your priority
Yes.
is your wife. When you get kids, your priority would be your kids. So it's really dependent on your life stage. So if you're young, you're lucky. Use the energy, use the time.
I think Diana has a question, but before the side question, how much was 1 hour at the internet cafe back in the day?
50 pesos. 50 pesos yata, 1 hour. I
Okay.
remember correctly. Around
Okay.
40 to 50 pesos. Medyo mataas siya back. So it was a good business, to be honest.
Do people still
Okay.
have internet cafes everywhere or hindi siya ganun kadalas?
Hindi na ganun kadami. It's really more for the serious gaming types, yung mga internet cafes.
Mm.
But with the prevalence kasi diba of fiber and broadband.
Yeah, everything on the phone. Eh.
Yeah.
I remember my first time when I traveled outside of my country, and because everything I did was on my own. Like I had nothing. I had $100 on my pocket, and my dad was against me traveling and starting my own life. But one day I'll get into when ako naman yung guest. Joke. I'll tell you my story. But I really started from nothing. So I will never forget the. I used to go. My first country was Thailand, so I used to go to this Thai internet cafe where I didn't understand anything, but I just really had to like Skype my parents and tell them that I'm alive, I'm okay, everything's
Proof of
good.
life with the newspaper.
2006 yon. So I know naman talaga. I was 18 years old, so nakakalaman na tayo ng age dito. But yun, like So it was really difficult, and internet wasn't like this. Like even the time that I was still with It Bulaga before I resigned from the show, internet was big, but it wasn't. I resigned back in 2012. That's when Instagram was starting up, right? So I was
Yeah,
like, man, if I waited for 2 years, I'm gonna,
exactly.
yung parang, yeah, that literally like, but I was telling Vince now, no, this new age that we're living, it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing because as long as you have content, as long as you know what you're doing and you know your value, the value that you can bring to anybody, it doesn't matter what you do. If you have value on your content, you can actually succeed. Unlike before, you have to, you know somebody to
Yeah.
actually put your word out there. So I have a question for you. Carlo, here in the Philippines, there's a lot of people who they want to be like YouTube creators. When you decided to create your own YouTube channel about sneakers, about gadgets, about culture, no, in general, what moved you to share that particular topics with people in that level? Because you're so good at what you do. So how do you get there?
Well, siguro the big difference between me and a lot of, I guess, younger YouTubers is exactly the age. So I'm kind of, I guess, mature. I've had experience in business. So when I decided to put up the YouTube channel, it wasn't because I wanted to get likes, comments, or shares. So
Mm-hmm.
I was very secure with what I've accomplished and who I am as a person. And it wasn't after any more validation from others. So the intent was simple. I wanted to create a platform or platforms that would allow for me to launch new businesses.
Mm-hmm.
That was always the plan. So it was to create a jump board for new initiatives and new plans. And I just aligned it lang to what I was very passionate about at that time. And at that time when I was starting the YouTube channel, it was about sneakers because I was in a Jordan-esque parang resurgence. Because when I was young, I couldn't afford to buy the shoes. Now that I have money and I see so many nice shoes, I end up buying so many shoes. Diba? So because I couldn't afford it back then. My parents couldn't afford it back then. So nagkataon lang na nagkasabay lang. I was at that stage na I really love sneakers. And the sneaker scene in the Philippines was starting to boom. And nobody was doing content on sneakers. And I felt this
Mm-hmm.
would be a great way to connect to a younger audience. And this would be a great way to build a platform to launch new businesses and offer value to people. I like what you said earlier na it's about value. Kasi if you take a look at the evolution of internet, di ba you have web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. 1.0 is connecting people to information. 2.0 is social, wherein you connect people to people. 3.0, where we're at right now, is connecting people to value. Diba? You actually solve problems and you offer solutions. So,
Connect.
nandun tayo ngayon, diba? So, kaya when I was putting up the channel, yun yung inisip ko, how do I create value? How do I identify problems that I can solve? And how can I create like businesses out of the platform that I was able to build? Kind of like sa Vince, diba, with When in Manila. It was
The
it
dawn of
started from there,
vlogging.
the events,
Yes.
and kung ano-ano na lumabas pagkatapos no. So,
Yep.
it was very similar to that.
So, Carlo, with the many different ventures you've jumped into, for our listeners, I'm sure none of it was easy, quote unquote, but of the different ventures, what was the easier one? Like if they had to choose, like if you had to go back and just pick one, YouTube was the easiest, or creating a blog was the easiest, or I would just stick with corp. Like if you just had to pick one to recommend that was easier, quote unquote. Again, I'm sure nothing was easy, but just comparing them to each other, which one would you say our listeners should jump into that was easier ish?
As long as it's aligned with what it is that you love, regardless if it's a job or a business, it's easier. If you do something kasi that you don't like, it becomes more taxing mentally and physically for you. And if there are challenges that come your way, your usual default or my usual default was always negative. Na parang it was kind of like toxic personally for me. Kasi I didn't like the industry or I didn't like the job or I didn't like what I was doing. But if it was something that I naturally like, yeah, gaming, parang I didn't know marketing, but I love gaming. Diba? I took up interdisciplinary studies in college, so I had no idea what marketing was about. But since I love gaming so much, I read all the books. Parang I bought all the marketing 101, the positioning, Basta lahat ng mga marketing books na tinuturo ng college, I self-taught and self-learned. I didn't know how to read the balance sheet kasi I was a brand manager for a gaming company, di ba? So I needed to learn how to read the P&L and manage, the ad and promo budgets. So I had to self-teach that as well and get mentors. So but that yearning for learning came from the space na I really like what I was, the industry that I was in. So same with all the different parts of my career, from the content side to the advertising side, and on the entrepreneurial ventures to talent management to the content. So as long as you like what you do, it becomes easier. The only time I remember having a hard time, the only part was yung mga negosyo na, kaya internet cafe, kahit mahilig ako sa gaming, wala ka talaga training. So, medyo mahirap, di ba? Friendster was a bit hard kasi I thought that I would go into digital talaga, but it wasn't what I was expecting. So, every time na it's not aligned to who I am or what I like, that's when it becomes difficult.
Yeah.
Carla, and I think with that, I have to jump into the tagline of the show, which is to show me the money. Of your ventures, which would you say are some of the more financially successful ones? And for our viewers out there, what would be sort of the ballpark figures that people might be able to earn starting, and if they were fully successful in that venture?
Well, if I were to take a look at, sabihin natin, all the different money-making stuff that I've done in the last 10 plus years, obviously the corporate thing is still a big thing kasi I was able to build naman a pretty good career, diba? And in pretty good companies. So corporate has been good to me.
I'm surprised. Okay.
And that actually, the reason why I had corporate is because it allowed me to not touch the money that the businesses were earning.
Okay.
Kasi,
very nice.
For example, it's 2020, 2021 na, di ba? So I've had some of the businesses that I've had for more than several years na talaga, as in a lot. I've never spent a peso. I've never used a peso from the businesses that I own until even up to today. So everything
You're still corporate today.
Yeah. So everything that I earn goes back to the businesses. Kasi because of the capability on the corporate side through the years, diba? So it gives you a certain type of flexibility. On the business side naman, the ones that have done well, well, of course, it was more the businesses more than YouTube. Kasi alam mo na, YouTube earnings, hindi naman ganun kalaki.
Can you please share with us, how much would an average YouTuber make when they start earning? And for some people, they don't even know how to earn from YouTube. So can you share with us some of those figures?
It depends kasi how big you become kagad eh. If you're a celebrity and you monetize your celebrityness, it's easier kasi you already have reach. But if you're starting from nowhere, and let's say you want to make money on YouTube, your first check will probably come in a year. Unless you're a superstar kind of guy like Ninong Rai, who came out of nowhere and just blew everyone out of the water, or sino pa ba yung mga sumikat na YouTuber na came out of nowhere. And sila David Gison, di ba, yung mga influencers na naging big on YouTube. So, but if you're starting from nowhere, like what I was saying earlier, mahirap eh. Parang, your first 5,000 pesos, 10,000 pesos would probably come in, 6-7 months or maybe more than that. And then as you gain in followers, maybe you hit 50,000 followers, you'd be fortunate to earn siguro mga 15 to 25,000 per month depending on your views. So it really depends on how your content is doing and where your viewers are coming from. I don't think a lot of people know this, but a view from the US is 7 to 8 times more profitable than a view here in the Philippines. CPM rates kasi. So basically, the ads that appear on your channel, di ba, you get a cut from what the advertiser spends. Ang problema, yung Philippines is hindi pa ganun kalaki yung gastos sa Pilipinas ng mga advertisers. So the pot is not big. Therefore, you share on a small pot. Versus in more developed digital countries like the US, Australia, Canada, yan yung mga high CPM countries. For some reason, Israel is very high CPM. Dahil malaki yung ad spend doon, mataas yung kita. So, kaya nga ako, on my channels, I still speak English. Kasi parang, kahit 10,000 views yan, pagkalahati dyan galing US, it's like a 70,000, 80,000 view video already. Kasi, in terms of revenue, di ba? So yun yung pagsasabihin ko pagdating sa YouTube. It really depends. I would love to give a more specific answer, but the problem is, it depends how fast you grow, where your viewers are coming from. Pero sige, just para lang gawin natin mas madali. Sabihin natin, a typical Filipino na Tagalog yung content, na sabihin natin over 1 year is able to put up a channel that has 50,000 subs. I think that's realistic. It's hard, but it's realistic, di ba? We've seen that happen. If you have 50,000 subs, you'd probably be earning around, I don't know, 20,000 on your AdSense if your content is good. And then sabihin natin, you get brand deals every now and then. Palagay mo nang you can earn an additional maybe 50 to 100,000 a month, depending on how good you are in getting like brand deals. So it can be naman. Kumbaga, you can create like multiple layers of monetization on top of a
Multiple
YouTube.
streams of income is important.
Yeah.
That's actually not bad. If they can, in a year, you can build up to where you're earning, that much, 25K on ads, and then 50 to 100,000 on sponsors. That's actually not bad.
Yeah.
But it depends on your skill sets eh. So, yun din yung sinasabi ko sa mga tao na parang not everybody, parang you should always play to your strengths, right? So,
Okay.
Ako kasi the YouTube thing is easy kasi I've given probably over, shucks, I've lost count. Siguro Vince, you can also relate. I've probably given, I don't know, over 4,000, 5,000 talks in my career, diba? So parang sanay ka na to, without any notes, to just speak.
Yeah.
So the public speaking bit is easy. So not everybody is comfortable with that. So you have to play to your strengths. Kung magaling kang writer, then baka you might want to explore blogging. If you're magaling kang photographer or sabihin natin model-esque, then you might want to try Instagram. If you're kwela na nakakatuwa and spontaneous, you might want to try TikTok. So whatever your strong point is, play to that, diba? Versus trying to force fit yourself in a platform na you're not naturally inclined to be good at.
Yeah. It's a really good advice.
Mm.
Vince, I know you have like numbers questions, Pat.
I have so many, but I just realized we're reaching our 40-minute mark. Me and Diana were worried earlier. We're like, do we have enough to talk about? We have to fill up 40 minutes. And we're like, oh my God, we don't even have enough time. Carlo has so much information and knowledge.
Cool
So-
lang yung time namin.
Diana, do you have a last question that you want to ask Carlo?
I just want to
I know, or a last few. It seems
Yeah,
like you have a
well-
lot.
Yeah, ang dami kong questions kasi I'm really interested in what he does, and I find him very inspiring for everybody who would like to be like him. Kasi talaga, you're really successful, and now that I hear you, especially you're speaking straight with us, like, oh my God, like talagang, it's not easy for people that they just think that you just create something and put it out there and then you get a fan base. No, it's not like that, because una-una, ang focus should not be the validation. That's number one. And I think people don't get that because they're really like so focused on the views, on the streams, on the numbers. And it's like that's toxic. I used to be in a toxic space as well. Like where you said, no, when you're younger, diba, we go through those phases where things are so superficial. And then as you age or as we mature, mas maganda yung mature. As we mature, to be honest with you, I prefer what I know is in terms of what I do now and how I do things way better than how I thought I knew. You know what I mean? Like when I was starting and I had so much more energy, it's much better when you get more mature about what you're doing. So I think, what can you say to all this young money or young people who want to have money, but they don't know where to start? They don't know how to pitch, how to like ask somebody, oh, please invest in my idea. Like, how do they do that? Out of like really like super naive question for people that don't know how to start. They don't have the same network that you do or connections, or probably their journey is different as well. So they don't know how to pitch to people, how to to bring up an idea. Like, how would you actually inspire everyone watching right now that would like to know how to do that like you did?
Well, you wouldn't know kasi what it is that you want to do and what would be successful if you don't try. So
Mm.
if I was still in my 20s, which is basically what I did, I just kept on trying, doing so many things and stumbling along the way. Parang your parang your 20s is your age of experimentation and discovery. Diba? Something like that. Parang you just keep on doing so many things, you keep on making so many mistakes, like me. And then you
I
just
can relate.
stumble into it depends, no. There are people who plan their lives. Like
Oh,
my wife, she's always wanted to be a journalist. So as young as high school, when she joined the school org, gusto niya maging reporter. She wanted to be on media, and that's where she ended up with. Diba? So she had a career where she became a reporter for TV5, on print, on for ANC. Now she's into PR. So kumbaga medyo may plan. That's
mm-hmm.
good if you're like that. Ako kasi parang I didn't really know what I wanted eh. So my 20s was just a whirlwind of trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. Um, and spending the time and energy that I had to discover. But if there was one thing that I did well, I think is that I really tried a lot and made a lot of mistakes and didn't care that I kept on making mistakes. And from those learnings, yun yung naging foundation of what it is that I do today. I think young people are so afraid to make mistakes kasi they try to show a certain image or a certain perfect them, because of the pressures brought about by social media. I'm blessed and fortunate to have grown in a time where there was no Facebook. There
Pareho
was
tayo. Lahat
diba, na
dito.
walang Instagram at walang Twitter. So I never had the need to get the likes, the comments, the clout, or whatever it was, or whatever the young kids call it today. So yun, parang but the reality is you don't learn if you don't fail. And if you're afraid to fail, that means you're not trying,
Mm.
which means that you're just stuck. So ako yun. As when you're young, try as much as you can, fail as much as you can, and then learn and be better every day. And then you'll just stumble your way into whatever it is that you need to do. But alongside that, parallel to that, siguro hindi tinuturo sa school. Try to learn the basics of finance, try to level up financial IQ mo, take
Yeah.
courses or read books. Basta pag-aralan mo yun kasi hindi tinuturo sa school yun. So
Ang
ako, I
dami
learned
ko
that way.
tinuturo sa school, Carlo, di ba? Like, there's a lot of
Oo.
things they don't teach us, and then they just expose us in the world. Well, we get exposed to the outside world, outside of
Yeah.
school, and outside of family, and then ganun pala siya. We fail a lot because we really don't learn those basic instincts of businesses in school. They don't teach that. They don't, yeah.
Agree.
Same with health. I can relate to that since I'm
Agree.
focused on health naman. That's what I study, that's what I do. But it's really crazy how nowadays young people, they're just like, they had zero idea of what businesses are because they're just taught what they have in school. That's it. And then they get out there, parang, oh my God, ang dami nangyayari na parang ang gulo na. And then we are always relying on on the older generation. And then now, it's different. Now the previous generation is focusing on the newer generation just to like, ano ba, how do we actually sustain our businesses nowadays? Diba? Ang bago talaga ng lahat. So for me, I also feel like you're giving us so much inspiration on opening up to us that it's okay to fail because a lot of people are afraid of that. There's a lot of pressure. People are checking on you. Like nowadays, if you're like in a high position in a company, they will actually check who you are first before they buy your stuff. Diba? Sobrang bago talaga lahat. Before you don't know who's the owner of what. Now, kahit nagtatrabaho lang doon, you will check their life or their lifestyle. What do they do? Is it
Yeah.
reputable? Should I trust this company? So I think, yeah, it's a big lesson that we are all going through together through this
Yeah.
generation that we have now.
Agree.
Vince.
So yeah, I think we are. I think that was a great last question for Carlo. I think that's a great last tip. I couldn't have imagined anyone to be a better first guest for us. Sadly, we're out of time, but I think we should have a whole series just on Carlo.
Hello.
I feel like we could
Sabi ni Carlo.
dissect each of his different careers in this, like, you know how
Sisigilin
like
na
Kobe
kita,
Bryant.
Vince.
Kobe Bryant had like 2 Hall of Fame careers with each different number. I feel like we could sort of do that with you and talk about each of your careers. But Carlo, thank you so much. If people want to find out more about you or watch your videos or whatnot, where can they find you?
Well, I'm very active on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so they can just search for Carlo Ople. I think they'll find me there, or on YouTube. They can also check me there. And yeah, I post naman all of the stuff that I do across all the different businesses that I run across my channel. So, yun, they can connect with me there naman.
Carla, thank you so much for being our first guest from the bottom of our hearts, me and Diana in the podcast network. We really appreciate it. Anyway, thank you so much. Diana, anything else you want to add before we head out?
I just want to thank him and also remind everyone watching here that he said connecting people to value is the most important thing. So you have to connect your audience to the value that you can bring into anybody. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be, physically talented. You just have to have some value that you can bring into your social media or to whatever you're doing if you want to be just like Carlo, I guess. And that's the thing and also multiple streams of income. I think it's the most important because people really relate on one thing or one job or one creator job or being a digital creator. No, you have to have multiple streams of income in any type of business, and I think that's really important, and you pointed out very well today. So thank you so much, Carlo, for being here.
Salamat. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. I enjoyed my time with you guys this morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there you go, guys. Thank you for tuning in to us. This is the podcast network in partnership with wheninmanila.com. My name is Vince Golanco with Diana Meneses and our first guest, Carlo Ople. Thank you so much, and we will see you again in our next episode. Bye, everyone.